Good day. On the night of June 5th, going into the morning of June 6th, there was a massive drone strike across Ukraine. Several cities were hit by drones and ballistic missiles shot by the Russian military into Ukraine. Several cities were hit. Many industrial complexes were hit, including warehouses, and the Russians said they hit military targets. For the Ukrainians, they said that the Russians hit civilian targets. But in all, several cities were hit, and many think that it is in response to Ukraine's recent attack against Russia, where air bases were attacked and some strategic bombers of the Russian Air Force were destroyed, and as well as some sabotage on trains and rail lines and bridges. The Ukrainians released a statement. After that, Ukrainians here now, meaning Volodymyr Zelensky, released a statement calling on America, Europe, the Western world, and supporters of Ukraine across the world to take action against Russia, put pressure on Russia. The Europeans may have heard Zelensky. Supporters of Zelensky across the world, those sympathizers of the Ukrainian cause across the world may have heard. But one person who I know for sure read or saw his tweet, but is not going to take action about it, is American President Donald Trump. Hello, welcome to my channel, Ibima Amungo's Perspective on Global Affairs. I thank you for the support you've been giving me so far, and I will continue to urge you to subscribe, comment, and share. Like and share. Share this video. A few days ago, the Ukrainian contact group of NATO was supposed to meet. They did meet, but something happened, which was a first. The American Defense Secretary was not part of that meeting. Pete Hegseth skipped that meeting. The Ukrainian contact group is made up of 50 countries who have been coordinating military and financial support, material support for Ukraine over the past 3 years of the Ukraine-Russian war. It was a big signal to Russia, to the Ukrainians, that the Americans are pulling back. And also recently, in the light of increasing Russian attacks on Ukraine, the foreign minister of America, Marco Rubio, was asked if there can be more support given to Ukraine in the form of Patriot missiles and missile systems, air defense systems. Marco Rubio stated clearly that America had no more weapon systems to give, and that he was reaching out to allies of America to help the Ukrainians in getting more air defenses. But unfortunately, most of the Europeans were hanging on to the air defense systems that they had because the ones they sent to Ukraine had practically been blown up by the Russians. In the past few years, we had heard this refrain: America will support Ukraine as long as it takes. That was the refrain of Biden. Biden was very well invested in this Ukraine war. And I do support Donald Trump when he says that the war is not his war, it is Biden's war. This Ukraine war, to a large extent, had Biden's fingerprint all over it. Why do I say this? We should remember that while he was vice president of America under Obama, Biden had tried to respond to the seizure of Crimea through support, military support to Ukraine. But then Obama insisted that Russia had escalatory dominance and that he wasn't going to get himself involved. He did find other ways of supporting Ukraine. He sanctioned Russia and did other things that undermined Russia, including closing so many of Russia's embassies in America. Although then it was that the Russia colluded in and interfered in American democracy. That was what the excuse was. But when Biden became president, Biden owned this war. He escalated this. He supported the Ukrainians. He encouraged them to not make peace with the Russians. And he promised them on ending support. And his actions even went beyond his promises. He made sure that he released to the Ukrainians well over $250 billion in military and financial support. He was practically running the Ukrainian civil service, paying the salaries of a lot of Ukrainian pensioners and so many things. He had a lot of support that he threw to the Ukrainians. But where did this support come from? Biden had a long history of hatred for Putin. He calls Putin a thug. He called Putin an autocrat. There was no good word he had for Putin. He hated Putin. And Biden also was at the heart of the disagreement between Ukraine and Russia. Why? Because when they had a Minsk agreement, the second one, they had an agreement in Istanbul, the first one after the Minsk agreement, he told the Ukrainians not to support that Istanbul agreement and that they should go to war with Russia. So here we are now. The war really does have Biden's imprint on it. But the refrain has gone from supporting Ukraine as long as it takes to Ukraine is very difficult to deal with. Zelensky is difficult to deal with. We don't have any other resources for Ukraine. We don't have anything to give Ukraine. And under the Trump administration, the attitude towards Ukraine has become cold. I dare say that from what I'm seeing, Donald Trump is going to cut off all support to Ukraine. Donald Trump does not like Ukraine. Let us not be nice about it. Ukraine has a bad history with Donald Trump. And how did that come about? When Zelensky became president under the guise of making peace with Russia, that was his campaign, that was the campaign slogan he had before he was elected president. If you believe it or not, he actually said he was going to make peace with Russia. But when he became the president, Trump was just getting ready for a re-election, and after a meeting or a phone call with Zelensky, a whistleblower from Russia in the National Security Council came up, a Ukrainian, and complained that he did not like the fact that there was pressure on Zelensky, that Trump pressured Zelensky so that Zelensky will give him information on the Biden and the Bidens, including Hunter Biden and the activities of the Biden in Ukraine when Biden's son Hunter was on the board of Burisma, the Ukrainian national oil company then. So this investigation into this purported pressure that Trump put on Zelensky led to the Democratic House then impeaching Trump. He wouldn't forget it. He remembers that even though he may have made a call, he holds it against the Ukrainians for doing that to him. He got impeached the first time on that basis. And for that reason, I believe that he holds this grudge against the Ukrainians. But Trump does not like Ukraine doesn't mean that some other people don't like Ukraine. Ukraine has friends, powerful friends too. The fact that Biden could get his support for Ukraine unchallenged was due to the fact that there was a bipartisan support for the Ukrainian cause at the early part of the war, when he could always raise money in Congress. He found money for the Ukrainians in Congress, and he only started to have resistance against that support for the Ukrainians when it became clear that Donald Trump will emerge the candidate of the Republican Party. And he started to weigh in on the money that was being released to Ukraine. But if anything indicates that he supports people who don't like the Ukrainian cause, it was in his choice of vice president. Vice President J.D. Vance was this one senator who stood in the Senate and in a filibuster move stood against the last round of tranche of money that was released, approved for Ukraine, $61 billion, which is still the money that Trump is releasing to Ukraine, even at this moment, because that money has not run out yet. It's a congressionally approved sum that Ukraine is still drawn down and still being sent to Ukraine. But JD Vance stood out and he made his name from standing against and opposing that particular support. But by then, resistance against support for Ukraine has started to grow as the Trump candidacy became clearer and clearer and clearer. So now we have a situation where even though Trump has shown that he doesn't like the Ukrainians, the Ukrainians still have bipartisan support in the Congress. One of the biggest supporters of Ukraine is Senator Lindsey Graham. Senator Lindsey Graham has put together a team. He says he has 80 signatures of senators, and with 80 senators, we will form a supermajority. He's trying to push a bill through Congress where these 80 senators will sign on this bill and approve a bill where there will be secondary sanctions on countries that support Russia. Well, we know the countries that support Russia. Almost all the countries of the global south support Russia, but most importantly, China and India buy Russian oil, and that's the biggest support that Russia is having now. So that will simply mean sanctions against Russia and I mean against China and India. But beyond the senators, Ukraine still enjoys the support of almost all the European countries, save two who are very vocal in their opposition to what the Europeans are doing. That is Hungary and Slovakia. But Zelensky has a full backing of the Europeans in the form of Britain, France, and Germany. And France has come to America to plead with Donald Trump to continue to support Zelensky. Macron came here. Trump was nice to him, but he said nothing. The same thing took with Keir Starmer. He came to America. Trump answered him politely and said nothing to him. And only a few days ago, new German Chancellor Friedrich Merz was also here and was telling Trump how America has been a great shaper of the history of Europe through their involvement in World War II in defeating, ironically, Nazi Germany. He didn't say the Germans, he said Nazi Germany, was very specific on that. So please do not abandon us now that we have a new boogeyman in Europe. But no matter the appeals of these Europeans, Donald Trump is not going to buy it. Donald Trump may seem cornered, and sometimes when they come to a team, because he does have two envoys who are helping him in a process of trying to get peace. His way of staving off any criticism against him that he's not supporting Ukraine is that he's trying to find peace for Ukraine. That is the method by which he's meandering through this political landmine of Ukraine. So he has said that he is trying to find peace in Ukraine. He has been trying to find peace in Ukraine, but that he keeps repeating it that Zelensky is the harder party to deal with in this. Zelensky is not looking for peace. Zelensky wants the war to continue for his own motives, for whatever reasons he believes in it. Some people feel he is delusional that he may defeat Russia. The same thing too with the Europeans. The Europeans don't want peace. They are scared and afraid of Russia. They believe that Russia is a clear and present danger to their security. So while Trump has not a single inkling to try and to support the Ukrainians, he has framed this peace narrative that he's looking for peace. Peace is looking for peace has come to see that that narrative isn't going to work because it is clear from the various engagements he has tried to do using both his envoys, Steve Witkoff, who leans towards the Russians, and Keith Kellogg, who leans towards the Europeans. Both of them have different agendas, different peace plans, and they come back with different messaging. He likes it that way. But when Every day, Zelensky does things that escalate the war, like bombing the strategic weapon, the strategic bombers of Ukraine, of Russia, pardon me, or blowing up bridges in Russia. He wonders that these people are not ready for peace. And when Russia shows their hand and destroys so many things, launch rapid missile attacks and big drone attacks across Ukraine, he realizes these people are not ready for peace. And even though they've had two peace meetings, and that should be commended, it's very commendable on Trump's part that for the first time in 3 years, he has forced the Russians, you can say he forced the Ukrainians to meet with the Russians, and but those meetings didn't end well. So while the last Biden administration, led by Biden, but with the able team of Victoria Nuland, Jack Sullivan, and Anthony Blinken, Lloyd Austin, all crafted policies to support Ukraine and undermine Russia and destroy Russia. Donald Trump has a big different agenda. One, he wants to pull Russia away from the embrace of China that Russia now is facing and get Russia to be part of his bigger geopolitical plans like support him or don't attack him or don't criticize him or don't be an obstacle to him if he makes a move on Greenland. Then again, he is trying to get Russia and Putin to weigh in on the Iranians so that he doesn't have to go to war with Iran. Going to war, opening up a new war front for the Americans is a big one for them because at this point in time, really, Americans' finances is not in the best of places. We know that several wars has bled American treasury dry, and it's not the fact that America cannot print money; they still can. But now they can't issue bonds the way they used to. They can't issue bonds. Nobody is buying their bonds. The action of Biden, where he seized the Russian sovereign wealth funds, sovereign wealth, some of Russia's assets, $300 billion of them, has made a lot of countries to stop investing in the American debt, treasuries, and bonds. They are now investing in gold. So this is putting pressure on America at a time that Trump is trying to have his big beautiful bill that will have $3 trillion of deficit spending in it, $1 trillion of military budget, and so many other projects that only him knows. It's so big that it has caused a cleavage between the relationship between him and Elon Musk. But he can't afford a war anymore. He just can't. America is stretched. And America wants to pivot towards engaging and containing China. But the war in the Middle East between Israel and Gaza and the war in Ukraine is tying them down. Another war with Iran will be resources being spent at a place far away from where their priorities lie. He's doing everything to just try to avoid a battle, a war, or a scenario where there will be hot exchange between Iran and America. And this is just where he's at now. But one thing is very certain. He just doesn't have the will to support Ukraine. And I can assure you and I can say that Donald Trump will end all support for Ukraine in the coming days when the money that has been appropriated to Ukraine finally runs out. This is my view on global affairs for today. If you have any comment about what I've put out today, please put it in the comment section. And if you are new to this channel, please subscribe, like, and share, and let other people know about it. But any comments, most comments are welcome so that we'll know your own ideas and your own vision. I read all the comments though, and thank you. The subscriber numbers are growing. I thank you for the support I'm getting. You have a good, wonderful day. Thank you.